This is going to be a V Rising updated ultimate guide to blood and the different blood types in the game. So what we're going to do is first cover the main basics you're going to want to know about blood and how it functions in the game. Then we're going to go through each blood type, where it's going to be strong, where it's going to be weak, and maybe some of the special mechanics that you're going to want to make sure you understand about some of these specifically, like the new corrupted blood. There's a lot of crazy things going on that you're going to want to understand. And we'll also dive into maybe some good synergies to consider when you're using the blood homogenizer to do different blood mixtures and some of the more popular combinations. Okay, so first of all, the basics of how blood functions in V Rising. Blood obviously going to be showing down here at the bottom center, and when I mouse over that, I get a bunch of different information to pop up. Like up on the top left where it says I have 8.7 out of 10 liters. That's going to be the blood volume that I can have maximum, which is 10, versus how much is currently left in my active blood pool, which is the 8.7. Now, the way that I like to think about this is just take those first two digits, and that's going to be the percentage that you still have left. So I have 87% of my blood pool left. And you do get a pretty decent visual representation of this down in the bottom center with your blood sphere. Right now, I still have 8.7 left, so it's mostly full. But as you continue to lose blood, that amount in that bottom center sphere will go down. Then up at the top right, it's going to show the blood type, which right now is just the baseline of a corrupted, but you can use the homogenizer to mix bloods. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Then it shows the blood quality percentage that we currently have active, along with a little horizontal bar that represents the different tiers of blood and what you have active. And the way those Roman numerals are written on that horizontal bar helps you understand how the blood tiers are going to be distributed in terms of the percentage of blood quality. So tier 1, you're just always going to get, even if you have a 1% blood quality, you're going to get that tier 1 bonus. Then to unlock the tier 2 bonus, you're going to need to have a blood quality of at least 30%. To unlock the tier 3 bonus, you're going to want a blood quality of 60%. Tier 4 is going to be 90%, and then to get tier 5, which is just going to be a boost to all the effects of 20%, that is going to be the maxed out 100% blood quality. Now, because I have a 100% blood quality, that's why all 5 of them are lit up. And now you can see up in the top left, I now have 8.6 blood instead of 8.7. So you do slowly lose out on blood even if you're standing in your castle. And there are a couple different things that will deplete your blood faster. That is going to be both the exposed vein and the blood mend. So you've got exposed vein right here. That's going to be like if you have an ally or a friend that's about to run out of blood, you can expose vein and allow them to take a little bit of your blood. And then also right here, blood mend, which is going to be if you're missing hit points, you can flip over to this and start healing at the expense of lowering your blood pool. So if I go into here and take some damage, I can show you this in action. There we go. Take a little bit of damage. Dash out of there, close that. Okay, so now you can see I'm at 550 out of 1,002 hit points. I flip on over to blood mend, and I'm going to start healing, but that's going to go from 8.2 to 8.1 to 8, 7.9, 7.8. It's going to drastically drop, but it's going to heal my hit points, and now you can see that I'm full pretty fast there, all the way up from 550, but it did come at a pretty big cost of about 10% of my blood pool. And now let's just do a quick breakdown of each blood type, where it's going to be strong, where it's going to be weak, and all that good stuff. I do have them loosely kind of in the order you're going to come across them in the game as well. Because very early in the game, you're going to see wolves and stuff like that have creature blood, and then you're going to move into some of those like rogue encampments and military encampments where they've got the warriors and the rogues, and then you'll start encountering workers and brutes and scholars. Then as you go up into Gloomrot, you'll have all the mutants, and then over in Mortium, you've got the Draculan. Up in Oakvale is where you're going to come across the new corrupted blood. So let's go ahead and go over each blood type really quickly. We'll start with creature. Now do remember that I'm going to be showcasing the top tier, like the 100%. When you achieve the perfect blood, this is going to be what these rolls are going to be showing. But if you have less than 100%, the rolls are going to look a little bit different. So creature blood is just going to be maximum health and then increased health regeneration, 8% increased movement speed, and also shapeshift speed, 24% healing received, and 20 to all resistances. Bite is also going to heal you and then also increase your attack speed and physical damage by 25%. And then tier 5 is just always going to be the same for all of the blood types, where it boosts the tier 1 through 4 effects by 20%. And I would say the main selling point for creature blood is going to be tier 2, where you get that movement speed and also increased shapeshift speed. Now, especially if you're playing on PvP, there's going to be times where you need to either chase another player down or be able to run away and disengage from other players. So getting that extra mobility is extremely helpful because there's a lot of times you're going to be flipping into wolf form to either pursue or run away. And the creature blood bonus can be the difference maker in those kind of engagements. And then the tier 4 bonus there does synergize with bite, where you've got a passive right here that's going to be helping you, where you increase the feed cooldown by 24% and using bite. So if you're going to be doing a fun build centered around biting and doing all that when you're speed farming and killing stuff very fast, could be a fun bonus to get there on the tier 4. To be constantly healing yourself and increasing your attack speed and physical damage output. So if you were doing like a brawler melee build, you're speed farming Mortium Rifts or something, that tier 4 bonus could be a lot of fun pairing with that bite passive. Then next up is going to be Warrior Blood, where we're going to be getting 10% physical power and also Veil attacks deal 30% bonus damage. A Veil attack is going to be like when you dash and then your next melee attack while you're veiled kind of comes out of the veil hitting something, that's going to be a Veil attack. Then we get increased weapon cooldown rate and also weapon skill leech, along with increased weapon skill power and 24% increased damage when striking enemies at full health, along with weapon charge gain. Weapon charge gain is going to be like when you do an ability, like right now I'll cast that ability right there, and then I get these weapon charges down here where you see reaching 100 weapon charges will cause your next one to not trigger a cooldown. So when I get this number 18 up over 100, I'll be able to do the same weapon ability twice because it won't proc the cooldown. So what that tier 4 bonus is going to do on Warrior Blood is just going to help me get more like free casts of my weapon abilities more often. So just a very good general utility build if you're running like a bow or anything physical, a melee build, you're swinging with a sword, or anything kind of centered around your weapons and your weapon abilities being the main source of your character's power. And I would say one of the more common tiers for mixing bonuses would be that tier 2, because it will help you hit the weapon cooldown rate and also get a little bit of a weapon leech. So you'll see some builds feature mixing with that Warrior 2. So then next up is going to be Rogue Blood. Again, another very generally useful blood that is very popular because we've got increased physical crit chance and then also crit power, then movement speed and also additional movement speed for 3 seconds after a killing blow, 14% increased Veil cooldown, and then also a 100% guaranteed critical strike there after using a Veil, and a 50% chance on a crit to expose the victim's armor, which is going to increase their damage taken from all sources by 15% for 4 seconds. So yeah, there's just so many builds in the game that can fit in Rogue Blood or mix with one of these bonuses of Rogue Blood. And then also worth noting that tier 4 bonus of exposing the victim's armor can be great if you're playing with 2, 3, or a full squad of 4 people, to have somebody taking advantage of that tier 4 rogue bonus, because only one person needs to expose the armor, and now they're going to be taking 15% increased damage from all sources. So you have one person running this blood, and then all of their co-op allies are now going to get a 15% damage increase. So in your squad, always nice to have one person utilizing Rogue 4. And then tier 2 can be a great one to mix. You're getting that big boost to movement speed, and then if you're constantly speed farming, like doing Mortium Rifts or something, you're always going to be doing killing blows, and then you're going to get even more of a big boost to your movement speed and be able to run around. And then tier 1 obviously giving you a big boost to crit chance and then also crit power. So really can't go wrong with Rogue Blood. There's a lot of different ways to utilize this. Then next up is going to be Worker Blood, another very popular one because people love to put on Worker Blood when they're going to go farming for obvious reasons. You get that 24% increased resource yield and then also increased damage against resource objects. So you're out there like breaking those iron nodes, those silver nodes, you're going to do 24% increased damage. Then 16% increased mount speed is pretty epic because we're going to be using our horse a lot once we get to the mid game and end game. So you're able to run around the map. A lot of times you can't teleport with resources on you. That'll help you get around that much easier. Then tier 4 is going to be a small chance to instantly destroy a resource node and trigger a burst of speed to help you get to the next resource node. So yeah, for obvious reasons, Worker Blood is definitely one you're going to want to utilize in your base. If you're going to be going out for a farming run for the next 30, 40 minutes or whatever, you want to put on Worker Blood because it'll make you that much more efficient. And if you're on a PvP server, it can be handy to mix a blood with that tier 3 bonus where you get that 16% mount speed. If you do that plus the potion, now you've got a massively fast horse and really no one's ever going to be able to run you down. Your horse will almost always be faster, which means you're going to be able to catch people if you want to or get away if you want to. A similar thing we were talking about with Creature Blood when it came to the shape-shifting wolf increase to speed. Then the next one is going to be Brute. Now, Brute, again, just going to be a great all-around blood if you're trying to beat up in the fray. You're doing a melee sword type of build where you just want to be swinging melee. Brute is going to be a great option because you get primary attack speed, also physical power, then primary attack leech, along with 4% increased damage reduction. Also increased maximum health and healing yourself by 5% when striking a killing blow, and then a 15% chance to parry an attack, reducing damage taken by 25%. And if you parry an attack, you're going to increase your own physical power by 20% for 3.5 seconds. So not only is Brute a really good option for a melee, tankier style of play, but also maybe if you have a friend that is struggling a little bit when you're playing co-op, the Brute blood can be a great choice. It'll help them sustain a little bit better, get more healing, more leech, parry attacks, and all that good stuff. If they're struggling and dying a lot in content, have them try out Brute. Then next we've got Scholar, again one of the more popular blood types because it's going to be extremely useful for any sort of caster build centered around getting value from spells, because we get increased to spell power along with shield efficiency, and then increased spell cooldown and shield yourself by 25% of your spell power when casting a spell, 20% increased ultimate power, and reset your cooldowns when using an ultimate, and then increase to spell charge gain, which is just like when we were talking about the warrior blood and getting that weapon charge gain. Gonna be the same thing here when I cast a spell. Now you can see down here I get these spell charges that are going to help me when I get up to over 100. Now my next one will not trigger a cooldown. So Scholar Blood can slot in really well on any ranged build that utilizes spells as the main source of their value. And one of the more popular bonuses to grab when mixing blood is going to be the tier 2 because it'll help you hit your spell cooldown thresholds. Then the next one is going to be Mutant Blood. Now Mutant has got the increase to spell power and also 10% increased shape-shifting speed, which is actually even better than the Creature Blood one. Remember that one, when we mouse over it, was an 8% to shape-shifting speed. Now Mutant Blood's a little bit later in the game. You're going to have to get up into Gloomrot, but it does have an even better bonus to like the wolf form than the Creature Blood does. Then we get a massive 28% increase to ultimate cooldown rate, and then we're also going to get 2 little mutant rats to fight with us when we cast our ultimate, then ultimate power and 12% increased minion damage. Along with tier 4 is going to be a 7% increase of Veil cooldown rate, and landing a Veil attack will lower our ultimate cooldown by 7 seconds. So Mutant would be a great choice for any ultimate centric build where you're going to get really powerful ultimates that you can do a lot more often by helping cycle through. And it's also going to be a great choice for any minion build, or just taking that tier 3 bonus to get that 12% increase to your minion damage. Is going to be a great mixed blood candidate because 14% increased spell power is great in a lot of builds, and that 10% increased shapeshift speed can be the difference maker. Again, if you've got these PvP engagements where you got to run away or you got to hunt somebody down, that can be the difference, getting that speed buff and being faster than your opponent. Then the next one is going to be one of the more popular blood types in the game. It's going to be Dracula. Now this got reworked with the 1.1 update, and it is an absolutely cracked blood type now. Because look at all these bonuses. We get increased spell power and increased spell crit rate. Then 16% increased spell crit chance, and spell hits grant us 8% movement speed for 3 seconds, which if we're cycling our spells is going to be almost permanent. Then 10% increased spell leech and 3% increased spell charge gain. So we're going to cycle our cooldowns to get free casts more often. Then spell critical strike hits increase spell cooldown rate by 40% for 3 seconds. So not hard to see why Draculin is such a popular choice for any sort of spell-centric ranged caster build. You'll see a lot of people going with like a Draculin base plus a bonus of another blood type like a Scholar or something. And then lastly, we've got the new blood type in the 1.1 Oakvale update, and that is going to be the Corrupted Blood. Now, there's a reason I've got the Corrupted Blood on right now for this video, and that's going to be, this one's going to need a little bit more time spent because there are some special mechanics going on with Corrupted Blood. And I'm going to help walk you through so that you understand how all of these mechanics work. So first up, we've got a big damage reduction from corrupted attacks, and then also gain 5% life leech, but we're going to suffer 10% increased damage from all other sources. Now, corrupted attacks are going to be very popular up in the new Oakvale area. Whenever you're taking like that purple damage number, that's going to be a corrupted attack. Then reduces the maximum amount of vile corruption stacks by 4 to 8, which when you're up there, you're going to be getting these stacks that like debuff your healing, but we're also going to suffer 50 to 100% increased blood drain rate. Then we get 12% increased movement speed and 18% increased attack speed, but there is a 25% chance when taking damage, we're going to trigger an eruption that inflicts a 2-second snare on ourselves. Then tier 4 is spell and weapon charge gain, both increased by 15, but there is a 20% chance to spawn a shadow that attacks you when using an ability. So okay, first up, let's go through these. So tier 3 is going to be a big boost to movement speed and attack speed, but a 25% chance that when we take damage, there's going to be an eruption that inflicts a snare on us. So I can go over here and I can show you what this looks like. Let's bring a buddy out here, a little sparring partner to come out here and attack us. Come on, who wants to fight? Come on now. Here we go. Come on. Okay, so now when something hits me, there's a chance that I'm going to get a little eruption to pop off. So let's see if we can get it. Nope, no, that didn't happen. Nope. Nope. Okay, there it is. Okay, now I can move out of the way and not get hit. Let's show this again. I'll show it when it hits me. And there it is, and then boom. Okay, now I've got a snare really slowing me down, and now it's gone. So it lasts for 2 seconds. So as long as you're constantly moving, you can get out of the way. Like, see, there it is, and I avoided it. So not too bad. As long as you stay nimble, moving around, the negative part of that blood won't really affect you too much. It's when you sit here and like get stationary and you're trying to swing. Oh crap, now I got snared. I'm trying to get away. I can't do anything. Like, that's when it's going to bother you. But as long as you really move around and have a lot of mobility, you can get out of that snare. And then remember, we had the other effect where we are going to have a shadow that attacks us when we use an ability, and it's going to be a 20% chance. So when I do something like my Reaper E here, I drop an ability. That was a 1 in 5 chance of spawning that shadow that attacks me. So let's keep doing this until we get that shadow to come out and attack us. Let's see if we can show you when that happens here. It's going to be like a little ghost dark shadow that spawns, and then it's going to draw like a line at us and try to hit us. But you can see, not happening super often. We're getting good RNG here. Oh, there it is. See, it draws a line, and then it's going to run down that line and try to hit us. We'll see if I can get it to spawn again. This time I'll let it hit me. And there we go. See, it hit me for 99 damage, and that purple number, that was corrupted damage. So again, if you're moving around and you're staying mobile, some of these effects are not going to bother you a lot, but you have to know if you're running corrupted blood to stay on the move. You do not want to be stationary. You want to be constantly strafing, constantly moving around, because when this thing pops up, you'll see that I'm able to easily avoid it as long as I'm moving to the side. But we're having really good luck on not proccing the negative effect going on here. There we go. There it is. It's going to try to hit me, and boom, we just let it fly by, and it did nothing to me. So as long as I'm paying attention, I can get the positive effects. It can just be a little bit of an annoying mechanic to have to pay attention to that and constantly be on the move. You're trying to fight, you're distracted. Now you have like your own things you have to avoid in terms of that exploding snare, and then also this shadow figure that's going to constantly be flying at you to attack you. But if you can get good enough to kind of stay mobile and play around those things, that bonus there for tier 3 is absolutely cracked. You get 12% increased movement speed and 18% increased attack speed. And remember, it's only going to be when you're taking damage. So if you want to be able to move around fast and kind of swing at resource nodes really fast, it could be a fun one to pair with something like Worker Blood or any certain style where you're not going to be taking damage a lot. Maybe you're playing like an archer, you're staying back, and you want a bunch of movement speed and attack speed. You're not going to get hit a ton. Boom, mix with that corrupted 3, and you're going to get a big boost in 2 different ways. Okay, so now let's talk about this bad boy, the Blood Homogenizer, for a little bit. Now, this is going to unlock when you defeat Lucille, the Venom Alchemist, up here at level 79. You can see down here, we're going to be unlocking the Blood Homogenizer from defeating her. And this is going to be one of the cooler parts of the 1.1 update, this Blood Homogenizer, because it allows us to customize our builds a lot more and mix different blood types to get different bonuses active for us and really customize our builds. But one thing I do want to make sure you know is that the boosts you're getting from the blood mixing, they cannot go above the cap of the stats in your attribute section. So like right now, for instance, let's say I've got a spell cooldown rate of 33%. So I'm like, okay, great. Here's what I want to do. I want to go in here and I want to build a Draculan base, and I want to do that super popular one that it pairs with in Draculan Scholar, and I want to get this increased spell cooldown rate right here. Okay, this is going to be amazing blood for me. Now I'm going to go way up on my spell cooldown rate. Well, let's go ahead and pop this and see what happens. So I had the 33% before, and it's supposed to give me 14. But what happens is I actually get capped out at the 43 right here. So I'm all the way up at 50% spell cooldown rate, but I'm wasting 7 of that. So you can see it says bonus over cap of a 7. And a lot of people, when they're newer to the game, they forget to look at this stuff and they just think like, oh, 14% cooldown rate. That's amazing. I'll take that. But you actually might not even be getting that bonus. Like if you were already at 43, you would mix that blood and get nothing for it. So when you're putting together your builds, make sure you're going through this attribute section based on the different roles you have in your weapons and the different things that you're utilizing with your gear set and all that, and make sure you're not going over these caps so you can mix effective blood to get the full bonus potential. Because remember, you're also going to have things like elixirs down here where I can get 7% cooldown rate from this elixir. And now that's going to put me all the way up at 57. So I'm 57 out of 43. I'm 14 over the cap, which means I am literally wasting the entire bonus that I get here. You see that infused blood bonus of 14% spell cooldown? I am literally 14% over the cap, and I'm getting nothing for that, even though when I mixed it, I thought it would have been making me a lot stronger and I would be getting a lot more spell cooldown. Which means for this build specifically, if I was going to be mixing Draculin and Scour, I wouldn't want to go with the cooldown one because I'm not getting any bonus. I would want to go with the Draculin base and then add a Scour 1 to it or something to get more power and shield efficiency. Or I could slap on something like, remember that Mutant 1 I was talking about? I get a lot of spell power and then also the increased shape-shifting speed. So there's a lot of different ways you can go with these bonuses. Just make sure you're never getting these stat thresholds to be in the red. You want to get the maximum potential of your bonuses. And then another important note, when you're mixing blood types, if you do get to that 90% threshold on the blood you're putting in here to mix with, down there at the bottom you'll see I get an infusion bonus, which is going to be an extra bonus that I get on top of the trait that I pick, where I automatically get tier 4 without even having to select it. Because what it does when you mix blood is you pick either 1, 2, or 3, and if you're over 90%, you just automatically get that 4th bonus. So when you're mixing blood, you're essentially getting 2 bonuses from that blood. You pick 1, 2, or 3, and then you get 4 automatically as long as you're over 90% on the blood you're inserting here to infuse with. And remember, that's why Scour is so popular with Draculin, because we're going to be able to pick, do we want more power or do we want more cooldown depending on our build and where our stats are sitting, and then we're guaranteed to get more spell charge cycle, which is going to help get us more free casts more often when we're hitting those different charges. So hopefully this helped you understand the basics of how blood is currently working in V Rising for the 1.1 update. And if you have any questions, I will have a Discord linked down below. You can always pop in there, tag me, ask any questions, or chat with other people there who are playing V Rising. And then also make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the guides and tier lists and tips and tricks type things we're going to be covering here on the channel. So I appreciate all of you. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you soon in the next video. Peace.